You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cricket Podcast for our penultimate IPL group stage episode. We've had 2 games and a rain-off since our last show on Friday. Did any of them matter? No, not really, but we're going to talk about them anyway because that's what we do. And then we're going to be looking ahead to the big ones coming up. We've got, well, really the big one, haven't we? We've got RCB v CSK, Dhoni v Kohli, Gaikwad v Rajat Patidar. Whoever bowls for RCB v the actually quite good bowling of Chennai Super Kings as we anticipate Saturday's contest. I'm Jack Hope. I'm joined by Max Rowe-Brown. How are you doing, Max?
Hello. Yeah, I'm all right. Nice to get the IPL crescendo that we all wanted, isn't it? It looks like that's where it's heading, and it's what the people want. It keeps you interested until maybe not the very last day, but the penultimate day. Close enough. It'll be the last day for us, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, it definitely will be. If you missed out on that, just a public service announcement, as they say, we won't be doing a show on Friday. The next show will be on Sunday evening when we will be wrapping up, well, all of the contests remaining. Today is the preview show for Chennai Super Kings v RCB, which is the game. That's the game, Max. That's the game of the IPL. We find it there. And I'm looking forward to it. Before we get to that, though, we've got 2 matches that did happen to talk about, featuring Rajasthan Royals and Punjab Kings and Delhi Capitals v the Lucknow Super Giants. And we've got a reminder to you that you need to click like and subscribe. Make sure you're following the Cricket Podcast for that big run-in over the next, 4 days. Max, what happened today in the cricket?
Well, Jack, we were in Guwahati today for Rajasthan's away home game. 13th venue used in the IPL this year. That's a new record to go along with all the other records that have been tumbling so far. One of the less interesting ones, but it's there. It's on the list. And less interesting was probably how you might describe the Rajasthan innings. Jaiswal fell early. Tom Kohler-Cadmore made his debut, and it was a slow one. And it was a bit of a stodgy pitch. No one really managed to do anything apart from Rian Parag and Ravi Ashwin, who hit a few boundaries. Rian Parag didn't hit a single 6 in his innings, which kind of tells you what we were dealing with. And they sort of stumbled along to 144 for 9 off their 20 overs. Punjab Kings, in Punjab Kings fashion, went the worst way possible about chasing it by losing 3 early wickets. But the mature captain's performance of Sam Curran saw them through to the end. And it went from being a Punjab-style start to their chase to a very measured, professional and controlled end to the chase. They did it with 5 wickets to spare, with 7 balls left. And it was just a little bit of Punjab in microcosm, really. The most annoying team you could imagine. They've taken down the leaders, the table toppers, KKR, with a record chase in the IPL. They've taken down Rajasthan Royals in their own backyard, sort of, with an assured performance. And yet there they are, languishing down the bottom of the table, although at least not actually bottom now, because they've left Mumbai 2 points behind. But that could still change. We could still have Punjab bottom. It's just such a tale of frustration for them this year, isn't it? But
Yep,
Rajasthan
it is.
looking dodge.
Well, which one do you want to do first? We can say
Let's get
we're probably
Punjab
not
season out of the way. Should we get Punjab season out of the way?
I think that's fair. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about Punjab on the last day of the IPL, are we? Unless something incredibly weird happens with Sunrisers. No, I'm not going to rule that out. It's Punjab, but let's assume, Max, that it doesn't. And
let's assume Punjab don't score 300 against Sunrisers, crush their net run rate, and somehow let Delhi Capitals sneak into 4th spot.
Yes, yeah. Let's assume that this is the end. Basically, they've been a bit bad most of the year. Is my summary of that. I think, Max, they were one of the easier teams to predict in terms of what they would play like or how they would play. And we have seen that basically borne out over the season. We said pretty early that they were going to get out a lot, that they were going to collapse, that they were going to lose from positions of strength on a fairly consistent basis, and that's what they've done. I mean, if you look back through their season, there are multiple games that they probably maybe not should have won, but where a good team might have been able to seal the deal, starting with RCB when they didn't defend 176. DK went off and trashed them. That can kind of happen, but to a team that had better death bowlers, it might not. I think they have another game against Mumbai where things kind of derailed. They lost by 2 runs to Sunrisers Hyderabad. Just sort of soft. Even that game against Chennai, 2 matches ago, where they were chasing 167, kind of a weird way to have your season pretty much officially terminated. Yeah, and this is a couple of games ago, and that speaks to, Max, like basically a weakness in the batting. They haven't got players who've scored very many runs. I'll bring it up in a second. I'll let you have a moment, but I'll bring up who scored the most runs for them, and it'll be like, I don't know. I'm going to speculate. It's either Simran or it's Bairstow.
Oh yeah, it's probably a few of them. Bairstow scored. Yeah, he scored.
Might be Curran.
Well, I don't know. What do you think? You're probably
going to get
that. Probably going to get that 100 from Bairstow, and then 3 or 4 players who've scored a few runs. And I think that's probably it. Really, they've got a lot of boom or bust in there. Liam Livingston didn't fire this season and then got injured, so that's one out of the way. You've got Riley Russo coming in to kind of replace Shikhar Dhawan, and he's a similar kind of player. And then, it's actually been some of the less heralded players who've kind of shown a bit of excitement in Shashank Singh and Ashutosh Sharma in a few of those games. I think in losing causes, but yeah, I think 2 of those wins have been on the back of like Sam Curran 50 or so, seeing them home and in a fairly low chase. And I think that kind of shows you the limitations of them as a side. But it's annoying because like they've got themselves into such good positions at times. And Harsh Patel's taken bags of wickets. He's been a little bit expensive, but he seems to have rediscovered his Yorkers a little bit towards the end of the season. He's bowled a few nice dipping in deliveries today, where you saw a bit of what Harshal Patel's all about. And I think there's stuff to like, but like this was Nathan Ellis's first game of the year, and like he's a quality player, and you just got him sitting rotting on your bench the entire season. So there's the kind of fact that they're just unbalanced, aren't they? Like you said, there's probably not enough with the batting, and then bowling wise, they've probably got more options than they need, particularly overseas. They can't get Rabada and Ellis in without sacrificing too much with the bat. It's probably go back to the drawing board a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, you want to on the batting? I've got it up here. The top run scorer is Shashank Singh, who probably should have got just off the bat, to be honest. He managed a total of 352 runs. Now, he did it well. He averaged 50, striking at 166. That's decent. There are 19 players above him on the list. 2 from every other franchise. A minimum of 2 from every other franchise. And that speaks to that problem that they get out too much. Like, you need a few guys to get 500 runs or to get 450 runs, and they aren't doing that. Even RCB, even Faf du Plessis had scored more runs than anyone playing for. There's some players on that list above them that you wouldn't think have done that much, but they have, like above Shashank. And that's kind of where it starts. What do we say? Bairstow, he's got 298 runs. That's not very good, really. No. Curran got 270 runs, quite slowly. Also not very good. Simran, 263 runs. And we're in the 30s here. Those 3, they're in a little group. The 30th highest.
A bunch of players who've done a bit, but no one's stood out. and you're not going to get anywhere without someone standing out.
Yes. So, I mean, like, it's Punjab, isn't it? What about Rajasthan? Is it trouble for them? 2 losses in a row, 3 losses in a row, 4 losses in a row now.
4 losses in a row. I think you can chalk that up as trouble by this point. They're in complete freefall. They're imploding. I don't know. Is it reversion to the mean? Is that what we're seeing? Were they a little bit sort of lucky to win their first? I mean, they won 8 of 9 to start the season. I mean, they've qualified. Like, whatever happens, it's been a successful group stage, but they're now in real danger of not actually making the top 2 and getting through to qualifier 1, which obviously gives them such a bigger chance of getting to the big game, the IPL sexy game. I think we decided to
sexy game
call it last year. Because they've got one more game left, and it's against KKR, and maybe KKR will be on the beach and they'll let them in. But KKR basically might get to decide who they want to play in the in the qualifier. But I think they're struggling with the bat, aren't they? That's the problem. They started off doing quite well with some 200-ish scores, like to start with, and they looked solid. They looked like they could chase down anything in the region of 200 without too much trouble. Rian Parag was new, improved Rian Parag, and an excellent Samson was on form. Jaiswal and Butler weren't quite doing it. Butler had his big 100. That was the moment for Josh Butler, and then he fell off a cliff. Jaiswal was exactly the same, had his incredible innings, and then didn't come back. And I think they're basically struggling from a lack of runs from 3 of their top 4. And whereas in the past they've kind of had, someone to kind of dig them out of a hole, whether it's been like Hetmeyer or whatever, to kind of give a bit of a boost at the end, they haven't had that for about 3 weeks. And they're not putting up competitive scores. They're not chasing down scores, and they're leaving too much work for their bowlers. And I don't know if it's a case of the pitch is getting a bit slower now. We've seen a bit more of that. Kind of happens, doesn't it, towards the end of an IPL group stage? Things slow up, pitches get used, it gets a bit tougher. I don't know if that's part of it. I mean, Donovan Ferreira's played a few games and done absolutely nothing. They're struggling. It may just take one innings, but like Butler's gone now as well. So I mean, Tom Kohler-Cadmore, a fine player, been decent in English domestic cricket. Throwing him into the IPL for the first time, different ball game. So I have some concern for the Rajasthan Royals. I don't think it's structural though too much, apart from possibly that finisher point that I was saying. I think it's possibly individuals.
Yeah, I think there's a few guys who basically haven't fired in the last game. You got to remember as well, if you're looking at Rajasthan's season as a whole, they got to the great record they got to, but they also, in doing that, were winning every single close match. Like Butler's 2 centuries happened in pretty close games, and he more or less, sealed both those wins himself.
Yeah.
Like a huge.
Well, he won one from absolutely nowhere, didn't he?
Yes.
I mean, that was obscene.
And I think when things like that happen, you have to consider like actually the whole piece. It's not as simple as just saying 7 wins, they must be good. Like there's calculations that you can do to actually look at how good a team is. The period I'm thinking about, Max, they won, I think, off the last ball. Oh no, they lost off the last ball to Gujarat, so we'll let them off that one. They won in the last over against RCB, then they won with a ball left against Punjab, then they won off the last ball against the Knight Riders. And that little run there, and actually they beat Punjab with 2 balls left earlier in the tournament as well. So that little run there, where they picked up 4 wins in 6 matches in games where it really could have gone either way, to be perfectly honest. Probably left them a win over expectation, or maybe 2 wins over expectation. And similarly, the last few games, like they lost by a run to Sunrisers Hyderabad. Like, they could have won that match. That's a game you win a lot. Like, losing by a run is pretty unlucky overall. And today,
And they had that pretty much in the back as well, didn't they? That was
yeah,
that was kind of reverse Butler, that game.
yeah. And today they were kind of a wicket short of putting Punjab into major difficulty. And so I know that this over doesn't go to the last game, and in the end, it doesn't end up being that close. But with 6 or 7 overs to go, it was probably quite close to 50-50 because of where the game was, and that's what happens in these contests, and what happens in T20 cricket, as we know. So I think probably where Rajasthan are now in the table is about reflective of how good they've been. I think the table was actually, again, fairly accurate, and I'm pretty sure we did like a who will make the playoffs, and these were the 4 teams that most of us agreed on. And I think if you look at them in the order that they're in now, Kolkata, I would say, have been the best team. I'd say Rajasthan, considering the whole piece, probably it's fair enough to say they're the second best team. And then we don't quite know, like with Chennai and the Sunrisers, who is third best. It's probably Sunrisers. They've got a game in hand. You would probably back them to end up finishing above Chennai at this point in time, as we speak now.
They've probably been a better side overall, but
but like I equally wouldn't be stunned if they finish 4th. And then RCB are the kind of wild card who weren't very good, and then have suddenly got quite good, and we don't really know which is the real RCB from that perspective.
They've reversed Rajasthan Royals it.
Well, yeah, and we'll get onto them a little bit later in the show. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the question was. I don't know what answer you wanted from me, Max. I think Rajasthan are in about the right place.
Should we be concerned about Rajasthan? I think you're saying no.
I'm saying they're about where they should be. Like they're a team that have got a good chance of finishing in the top 2, which would be about fair enough, or they might finish 3rd, which would be about fair enough as well. Now, there's a big difference in the likelihood of you winning the competition. It's quite harsh. It might be quite harsh for Rajasthan to finish 3rd if one of the 2 teams that can catch them either win 2 games or win their last one. But it also wouldn't be like the most brutal thing that's happened in the history of the IPL. Like there are flaws to Rajasthan. They don't bat very deep. They don't score that many runs. They're a team, and we've seen this the whole way through the season. They're a team that do have a ceiling when it comes to the number of runs that they can score. They can get quite a good score, but if their bowling fails, as has happened a number of times in a row, their batting is going to struggle to really propel them into a winning position. They're not going to bat someone out the game. They do need Chahal to not be going for 50 every match. And that happened, didn't it, for a little while? No, not in the last 2 matches, but I think 5 games in a row, Chahal went for 40 or more. And that, no coincidence that 2 of the 4 losses happened when that was happening. Anyway, should we move on? Take a break and we'll come back.
Let's.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast, where we're going through our penultimate IPL group stage show. We've got only 1 game. We'll talk about Gujarat v KKR. We'll do that right now. Gujarat are out. I can't even believe they were actually still in it until someone said they were officially.
I mean, they weren't.
I was like, "What? How is that? How's that a thing?" And obviously, the point is decent for KKR. It puts them in an unassailable position thanks to other results in a top 2 qualification spot, which they want. What they deserve, I think. There's some random shit that's gone down for KKR in this tournament. Narine doing what Narine has done is, that wasn't in people's calculations.
No,
it wasn't supposed to happen.
It wasn't on the
but
cards.
It has, and considering that it has, I think we have to say fair enough. They're the best team, and I'm looking forward to them. Looking forward to seeing them in the playoffs. To be honest, I think they're exciting. Little bit of a thing. Well, the one talking point with KKR is obviously Phil Salt goes home, and that means that like Gurbaz has to come in, and that could be bit tricky. Have you got any thoughts on Gurbaz for Salt?
Yeah, it's worse, isn't it? It's substantially worse. It's the thing with the Narayan and Salt partnership just gets them going to such a fast start, and they really maximize the power play, which we love, obviously, as a thing to do, but makes perfect sense. And it will be interesting to see how big of an impact that has. Maybe it puts a little bit more pressure on Narayan getting a fast start, but it's when we were previewing the sides before the start of the IPL, we were looking at KKR and thinking, yeah, not they're okay, but there's some problems there. Then Phil Salt comes in, and suddenly all their big problems are solved, and they look like a unit. So now he's out, and we'll get to see in 2, possibly 3 games whether we were right to be so down and out about the lack of Phil Salt, or whether they were always going to be good anyway. But I'm a little concerned that it obviously robs them of a lot of what they've been about so far this year. But perhaps, like I said, with pitches the way they've been of late, and where some of the knockout games are, maybe losing someone who's boom or bust isn't going to be the end of the world, and they'll be fine anyway. But there's definitely a narrative developing in terms of the knockout stages for the IPL about who's losing players and who isn't, because it could have a big bearing when it gets to final day, depending on who makes it.
Yeah, it's obviously a little bit of a shame that Butler and Salt don't get to play in the knockout rounds from a competition point of view, and probably from a personal point of view for them as well. But this is what happens if you make the tournament needlessly long. Is the answer to that? I think
how many Saturdays have we had where there's been 3 games? Sorry, 1 game and 2 on a Sunday, so 3 over the weekend. That's most. Yeah, probably.
I think if they played every Saturday, we'd be talking about a playoff match today. And I think
and everyone will be
players. Yeah, exactly. But we're not, are we? Because reasons, Max.
Yeah. Reasons, really good reasons, I'm sure.
But yeah, well,
don't have enough tartar punches.
Well, I don't know. I think there is a fact that playing a game a day for the entire tournament does drag out this part of things unnecessarily, and so leaving the fact that England have called all their players home aside, and other nations.
It's not just England, to be fair. Bangladesh have done it.
So leaving that aside for a second here, the games we've seen this week, or we would have seen this week, Gujarat v KKR, a bit pointless. Today's game, completely pointless. Yesterday's game had some stuff riding on it, and we'll get to that in a moment. Tomorrow we've got Sunrisers v Gujarat, which is a little bit interesting, but not from a... It's only interesting on one side of that. Then on Friday we've got Mumbai v Lucknow, boring. Then we've got Saturday, really good game. Fully understand that. Then it's Sunrisers v Punjab, which again could be pretty boring, to be honest. And then Rajasthan v KKR, which does have something riding on it for Rajasthan, has nothing riding on it for KKR, and is a little bit boring. And if you insist on playing a game a day, don't kind of be surprised if at the end of the tournament the games aren't very good. And they're a little bit like dead rubbers. And it was notable actually. I was doing guerrilla cricket and last Thursday, and this was an RCB game. So RCB a big draw in the IPL, obviously. Playing Punjab, not a big draw, which is fair enough. But RCB were on a little run. They were charging, and Anindo, who was on with us, said he had the view count for the number of people watching that RCB game versus watching the first game of the tournament, and it was, I think, 40 million people versus 200 million for the first game. So it's it's undoubtable that there is a drop off in excitement. Now I understand, obviously, the first game of the IPL, with I think it was it Chennai Mumbai or Chennai RCB. It was a blockbuster, and it was on a Friday night. That's going to draw more people than a Thursday game that features Punjab and RCB at that point still still with a fairly narrow course to the playoffs. So I understand that, but also like
It's an 80%
that
drop.
that is a product of something. That drop off is a product of something being a bit too drawn out. And with this number of teams, you can probably get away with one game a day. But if you add more, like, you'd be waiting a week to see some of the teams. Like, there'll just be more and more pointless matches, or you expand the playoffs and you make all of the matches as a result pointless.
Yeah, it'll end up literally being a quarter of the year if they add more teams, and then there's one game a day, and that's like
it's a lot of
time.
It's a lot of cricket, and it's a long time between each franchise playing, so it's harder to maintain those narratives. And it also means that the end of the tournament, there's two courses you can take. If you've got 12 teams, you can either say the playoffs are now 6 teams or 5 teams, so you, in essence, make the league stage more pointless and less interesting to expand the playoffs and have more, in quotes, interesting matches. Or you start playing 2 games a day so that there's a good chance that people watch. As someone's pointed out in the chat, that 40 million is still a damn good number. And you know, that is true. That is a lot of people, but it isn't 100, it isn't 200. And there's a reason that, and this is my understanding, I don't work for Star Sports. There is a reason why the advertising revenue stayed flat this year, even though, you know, we've seen global inflation and stuff, and it should have gone up, because this happens. Like, it is the playing one game a day. It probably does ultimately maximize the number of eyeballs, but does it do that forever? Is it a good investment? It's a good structure in the long term, and you know, people have to decide that. It's not actually for me to decide. I'm just laying out that there are sort of two sides to this. Like,
maybe one day, Jack. Maybe one day it will be for us to decide.
Well, it won't be.
We'll come March to solve it.
If it was, I totally get it with 8 teams in the tournament playing one game a day, because the teams are still playing quite regularly, because you need that turnover to actually get through the week. Like, every team is going to play on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday if you've got 8 teams, basically. Even if you're only playing one game on a Saturday. At the moment, like, there are massive gaps in the kind of narrative. It's long. Yeah. Now, we can deal with that. I've watched all the games pretty much. I can deal with that. I don't mind it. I enjoy the IPL. Like, I'm saying from a more critical standpoint here, like, there are other ways to do this. Like, the NFL doesn't play one game a day. If the NFL did that, it probably would make more money per game, and it probably would get more eyeballs for a bit. And then people would be like, what the fuck is going on here? This is ridiculous.
It's 2 years down the line, and we still haven't finished. We haven't found out who won 2021, and it's 2027.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what actually is more interesting is when you get like swings and you have permutations, you need different outcomes, and like mad stuff is happening all at once.
You hear that rumble in the crowd when you find out, Rajasthan has just posted 250.
Well,
that means we need to do even better in our innings. You know, Everton have gone 4-0 up. We're going to get relegated if we don't score 2.
Right, Max, we're going to talk about yesterday because we've gone off on a huge tangent here.
We have.
Delhi played. Delhi didn't play anyone. What am I talking about? No, Delhi did play. Delhi played Lucknow Super Giants. Yeah. Do you want to know what happened? I'll tell you. Delhi, they batted first. Fraser McGurk was out early, and I think there was, you could hear people getting up to switch off their TV screens when that happened.
Thank God Australia didn't take him to the World Cup, Jack. He's no good.
He is rubbish. Fraser McGurk. But Delhi ploughed on. They got some runs. Abhishek Parel, he's had a pretty decent season under the radar. Like, got a little bit of time for Abhishek Parel for sure. And Shai Hope and Rishabh Pant, they all batted. They got runs. Tristan Stubbs did the finishing role again. Another guy who's had a really good season. And Lucknow got carted around, to be honest. Did not bowl very well. In response, the Super Giants got off to, I think, probably the worst possible start. They were 4 down pronto. 44 for 4 inside 5 overs. Too many fours in that. But they did rebuild. Nicky Pooran came to the party. He's had a decent year, probably a little bit under the radar himself. 61 off 27 for him. And Arshad Khan, like you could hear the paddles waving in the not too distant future as people eyed him up as a potential finisher for their side next year. He gets 58 off 33 and keeps the game interesting enough. Like I think mathematically it did end up going to the last over. Arshad was sort of still about, but it didn't get to the grandstand finish that could have really made a name for himself or made a name
it was
for Arshad.
just about close enough all the way along for you not to turn off.
Yeah.
Basically.
It was a decent game of cricket, decent game of IPL cricket. Just, it's the implications of what happens as a result of that are relevant, though. Max, it basically eliminates Lucknow from the competition, and it wasn't really like if Delhi had won by absolutely miles. So Delhi are done now, 7 games, 7 wins, 7 losses, minus 0.37 net run rate. Like I think there is a mathematical scenario that gets Delhi through. But it's a pretty long shot one, and they didn't bowl out Lucknow quick. If they bowled out Lucknow for 70 or something like that, maybe it would be realistic, but they didn't. And it kind of means, Max, both these teams are out, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, it does. Probably more of a disappointment for Lucknow than Delhi, because Lucknow kind of did have a shout if they won their last 2 games, and 2 games that they'd have seen as winnable against Delhi and Mumbai. So, party poopers, Delhi. And it's just a shame they didn't stumble upon things, playing this way a little bit earlier, because they started the IPL with 1 win in 5, and down the back end they won 6 out of 9. And that's a really good effort. It's a really good comeback that they've mounted, and they've played some exciting cricket along the way. It's been fun to watch, but all a bit too late, unfortunately, for them. But I think they can come out of this pretty happy with the way things have gone. Every chance of finishing 5th, and based on what we said at the start of the season, how they looked. If I'm Delhi Capitals fan or in the management team, I'm pretty pleased. I'm thinking we've got a way forward. I'm thinking we can keep Jake Fraser McGurk for peanuts at the auction if he wants to stay and not go back in.
I was him.
20 crore.
I'd be like, I want to go for 20 crore, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be like, on your bike, lads, and go back into the auction. But you never know, they might be able to sweet talk him
100%.
around with some. Yeah. I'm
he would have to have literally no brain to agree to anything less than like 8 crore.
Maybe not. I'm pleased for Delhi. They look like being real whipping boys and it being a horror season, and they've come back. They've played some good cricket. There's been some stand-up performance. Rishabh Pant's been good. He's been good behind the stumps. A couple of stumpings yesterday as well. Good with the bat. Incredible recovery and season for him. I'm amazed at how well that's gone. So that's been really pleasing as well. And just ultimately, you shouldn't really be too happy if you don't make the playoffs. But from the position Delhi were in, I think they can be fairly content with their work.
Yeah, I thought they were one of the worst teams I'd ever seen in the IPL for the first few matches of the season, and they definitely turned it round. And there are some really happy stories that come out of this. Rishabh Pant coming back and playing well, averaging 40, finishing in the top 20 for runs, wicket keeping well. Great story for Delhi, great story for India. Jake Fraser
straight back into India's side.
Yeah. Tristan Stubbs, 2 overseas players that look like they're going to be pretty exciting, and they're like difference maker overseas players as well. It looks like Tristan Stubbs can play that finisher role and do it really well, and that's a small market. And it looks like Fraser McGurk. There's more guys at the top of the order that can hit. No one's hitting like Fraser McGurk. Like he looks like a completely different prospect to everyone else. So that's great. And then with the ball, not as good, but Kuldeep has an okay season, doesn't he? And Ishant Sharma has like a little autumn
swan song, maybe.
Yeah, a little swan song. So it was good for him. Lucknow, on the other hand, that was kind of a story of what might have been had they not lost Mayank Yadav, I would say. When they have him, or when they had him in the 2 games that he played at full speed, they looked fearsome. They looked really good. And when they didn't, they were quite boring to watch and lost. It felt like pretty easily in every game they played.
Yeah, yeah. Their top order's not done the business at all. Quinton de Kock's had a pretty bad year. Stoinis has had some good games. In fairness to him, but yeah, King Legend has been King Legend a lot of the time. Deepak Huda wasn't as dreadful as he was last year, but he wasn't brilliant. And it's not. Yeah, I say that sort of contributed them really to not being that exciting in a year where the ball's been flying all over the place. Lucknow haven't come close to threatening any of that kind of play, and just sort of very similar to the last 2 years of Lucknow, isn't it? They're just a bit like, yeah, they're fine.
They were good
not
last
quite
2
as
years.
effective this year. Yeah, they were good, but
Yeah,
not
yeah.
exciting good, were they? And this year they've been the same, but less good. So
Yeah, they last 2 years to qualify for the playoffs, net run rate of 0.25 on both occasions. That's sort of the definition of quiet competence, isn't it?
yeah.
They're Jeff from accounts. No, always gets his numbers right, sets your budget up for you. Perfect. Don't have to worry about that till next year. Am I going to go and have a beer with Jeff? Probably not. No offense, Jeff.
Try not to.
But when I need my accounts done, I'm coming to you. Except this year, I don't know what happened. Jeff had a
Bit of a
divorce.
midlife crisis, a bit sloppy, drunk too much, made some mistakes.
Yeah. Jeff,
Yeah.
it is. It's a midlife crisis for Lucknow. And hopefully they bounce back. Maybe they will if Mike Yadav returns for them next year. Max, we're going to have another break. Then we're going to talk about the games that are coming up. A reminder to everyone on YouTube, make sure you click that like button. We want to hear you clicking that like button. We want to see you clicking that like button. Let's drive the number of likes up. If you're on Twitter,
click.
you can do the same. And if you're listening on audio, leave us a review. We've had some good reviews in, and I will try and get them and read them out before the end of the show, if I remember. We will be back in a few seconds.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Cricket Podcast. We've actually got loads of reviews. Ross's campaign to get people reviewing has actually worked quite well.
Has it?
The number of reviews is
Well done, Ross.
it's going up. Well done, Ross. I'm going to read some out now. Yusuf says, love listening/watching to the TCP crew with Max, Jack, and Ross. Have a great chemistry. And chemistry's in quotes, like perhaps it's more than chemistry. Which I can assure you it isn't.
He's rumbled
Which just is quite present in the podcast, allowing them to just be fun to listen to. Keep it up. Cricket banter and sledging, says Asif. I love the fact that these guys are witty, thoughtful, and straight talking. They don't really care if certain fan followings get upset what they say about a certain supposed legend. They play the ball, not the bowler. For this reason, they must keep going, and we need to support TCP. Otherwise, we are left in between dry, politically correct cricket content or the brainless trolls. I think that's a nice valley to exist in.
I like that. Yeah.
And then we have a long one. I've seen Shadley's one. I'm going to save that one because it will take me about 2 minutes to read out, and I've read out 2. So
Fair enough. Save it for next time.
There we go. Max, we've got some big games coming up. Let's run through the contests. And if you don't like the game, I want you to say pass. Okay? We won't talk about it. Sunrisers Hyderabad v Gujarat Titans. That's tomorrow's game. Are you excited?
No. Pass.
You're passing on that.
Yeah.
I think right. Okay, you failed the pass test because we do.
Oh, you reckon it's good? No, I mean Sunrise is going to win, and Gujarat
it's
are
not a
pretty
good game. Ignore Gujarat. No. Leave them alone. But Sunrisers, they need one more point to seal qualification. So there is.
All right. Yes.
If you're a Sunrisers fan, like this is your opportunity to get in there. Maybe even set up a charge for the top 2. If Sunrisers lose both their matches, then they need to rely on CSK beating RCB, and they need to keep their net run rate above Delhi. Like they should be able to keep their net run rate above Delhi. I think that's achievable. That's an achievable goal. But they don't want to. They don't want things to fall out of their hands. So they do need to win one of these matches.
They
In
do.
terms of actually previewing it, I don't have anything to say. But like
Yeah.
there is something to play for there. Mumbai
Yes.
v Lucknow. That's Friday's game.
Well, that's a pass, isn't it? Like
That's a pass. Sorry, guys.
yeah.
Your teams are rubbish. Saturday, Max. Royal Challengers Bengaluru v Chennai Super Kings.
Yeah, big. It's the big one. It's the big one. Some RCB, they need to win, and they need to win by, is it 18 runs or with 9 balls to spare? Or is it in 18.1 overs? I can't remember. It's some kind of permutation. So, not at all beyond the realms of possibility. Plenty of bigger wins than that so far this year. So they are in with a shout, and it's obviously at the Chinnaswamy where runs can be scored and run deficits can be racked up. So I'm excited, apart from for the weather forecast, which does look a bit grim.
This is true. I got the weather up. I was hoping, people say, don't they? Oh, the weather's going to be bad, and sometimes it isn't. I was hoping that I'd look around and the weather forecast would be fine. It isn't. Saturday. This is when this game's going to happen. The game starts in the evening. In the hours preceding the evening, the rain percentage chance doesn't fall below 75%. So
Okay.
it's chance of
not
rain,
great.
and it's not just like rain; it's thunderstorms. There's going to be a thunderstorm. There's a 3 in 4 chance there's going to be a thunderstorm every hour for 5 hours leading up to the game, and then I think when the game kicks off, the percentage chance of a thunderstorm is about 93%.
Okay.
So it's a tough one.
What odds are there of a last-minute change of venue to enable this game to happen?
Oh, have you seen a rumor on this, or are you just coming up with this?
No,
on the fly?
I'm totally throwing this out there. This is from absolutely nothing but the fact that it would be peak IPL to do something like that.
I mean, it would be peak IPL, and it would also kind of make sense. Like it would,
which would make it not peak IPL.
Yeah, that is true.
Paradox.
But we were talking about viewer numbers earlier. Like this,
that's true.
This would be maybe the most watched game in the IPL this year if it doesn't rain, and it would make sense, therefore, to maybe consider moving it to a part of the giant country that India is, where there's no rain.
So Sachin said they would have loved a venue change. He'd love a venue change, but no way they're going to do that to Talat. The only thing is with CSK, they've got skin in this game as well, right? If they win this game, they're in with a shout of top 2, and that's massive. So there would be, I mean, there's risk in CSK getting a game, because if they could lose and not qualify, but also there is rewards to be gained. It would be completely cricket for this whole crescendo to happen. RCB come from nowhere, win a billion games in a row, everyone else fall by the wayside, and come up to this one game where it's within the realms of possibility that they could mount this ridiculous comeback, and then the weather stops it. And they're out of the IPL because it rained too much. That would be the most cricket way for this whole thing to end you could possibly ask for.
I mean, I really hope it doesn't. Like, I know that Ross has been incredibly sad about this, because his Rostradamus prediction that RCB were going to finish bottom of the IPL has been blown out the water by a rejuvenated Kohli and a bowling attack that looks, slightly less dead, zombie-like than before. It's animated. It's gone from corpse to Frankenstein's monster, is what I would say.
Okay.
They've raided a local cemetery. They've hacked the limbs and gouged out the organs of some freshly buried corpses and reanimated
a little bit of
them
necromancy
into a bowling attack where suddenly Cam Green's taken 3 wickets and Khan Sharma although he is completely unable to land a ball in the same place twice across the 4 overs of his spell, somehow a wicket threat. Like they've managed to do that, and I think hats off
If
to
the
us.
bowler doesn't know where the ball's going to land, how's the batter?
That is true. That is true. That's the Khan Sharma magic. I watched Khan Sharma bowl, and I was like, how is this professional cricket? That was what I think. Like I bowl leg spin, and I'm more accurate than this guy. I'm like, maybe that's good. Maybe he's just giving people hope. Maybe it's one of those things. Anyway, less about Khan Sharma. You're absolutely right, Max. Like it would be the most cricket way for the comeback to end. Also, I mean, if we talk about the cricket, like there's a dynamic here, isn't there? Now, my understanding. Let's actually let's talk about the cricket like it's going to be on, and crucially that there's going to be 20 overs.
Yes.
Here's what needs to happen for RCB to get through. They need to win in about 18 overs, like within about 18 overs. And this depends slightly on how many runs Chennai score if they batted first, or if Chennai bat first. Does that make sense? No. If RCB bat first, then they need to win by about 18 runs. So it's like, again, there's a couple of runs difference in there depending on how many runs are scored in the game as a whole. That's quite doable. That is a possibility. And I want to see that happen. I would like to see RCB complete this miraculous comeback against Chennai in the Corveri River Derby, the one that
the biggest rivalry of the IPL.
Well, it's up there, isn't it? I mean, the one they call El Clasico to try and cut in on the Barcelona Real Madrid action. And that is a good derby, but it also feels a bit fake. Like almost everything Mumbai do, it feels a bit fake. Whereas I think CSK, the RCB, they're salt of the earth cricket teams, proper cricket teams.
Yeah.
Always
got cricket's
and I want to see that battle. I want to see Dhoni v Kohli in maybe Dhoni's last ever game, and I want to see Kohli beat him. That's what I want, Max.
I want to see Dhoni hit a 6 off the last ball to mean that CSK lose by 15 runs.
Or that. I would like to see Kohli bowl the last over to Dhoni. And let's just see who the better player is when the chips are down. Who's the best captain? Neither of them are captains anymore. It takes on a whole other dynamic. So
the game happens. Who are you backing?
I think away from home, Chennai aren't very good. Unfortunately, I also think RCB are a little bit iffy at home, and I wonder whether their resurgence in form has come during a portion of the IPL where they didn't have to play at home that much. I think RCB are the favourites. I think Chennai are a bit without Patirana.
I think I agree with you. Yeah,
Chennai are away from home. They don't have Patirana, who's their best bowler. They don't have Fizz, who's been their second best bowler, probably over the tournament. Has Moeen Ali gone? I mean, like, that's not the biggest loss.
Moeen Ali won't be there.
I'll grant you that. So they've got their 3 overseas players down. Well, we're going to see Richard Gleeson again. That'll be fun at the Chinnaswamy.
That'll be runs at the Chinnaswamy.
I enjoy that. Or Mitchell Santner not spinning the ball like that. That again could be fun at the Chinnaswamy. And RCB on the other hand, now they have lost Phil Salt. That is huge, but they do get to have another spin on the Glenn Maxwell wheel.
Yes,
that's a good wheel. If you're going to have a spin on a wheel, do it on the Maxwell wheel because Maxwell could come in and despite having the trash, the Max wheel, yeah, exactly. He could win that game single-handedly. Glenn Maxwell is still probably the best T20 player in those 2 squads, and I'd maintain that. Like, of the players that are available for that game, Maxwell just has a gear that nobody else has in either of those 2 teams, and when he finds it, it's bonkers. He also has a low gear. He also has what's going on.
He's got a very sticky gearbox.
Yes, he's got a gear. He's got a clutch problem.
It's got a funny knack to the clutch to actually get it out of gear, or into gear.
But if he gets it into gear, then there's no stopping him, is there? And that's in the mix. I don't know. I want to believe it's RCB. What do you think?
I know. I kind of agree with you. I think RCB are probably. I I'd back them because I mean you're looking at the Chinnaswamy and the short boundaries, and like CSK seem to only play Theekshana at home or in certain matchups. I don't feel like Theekshana in the power play at the Chinnaswamy is necessarily going to work, but they might not have a choice if Moeen Ali's not around, and given the lack of overseas players they've got. And like it comes at that point down to, I think, who's got the most power in the lineup, and just CSK don't really have that this year. They've got Ravindra opening up, and then who's clearing the boundaries in the middle order? Shivam Dubé is going to be so key for
Dubinator.
CSK in this game.
I don't love Dubé v Khan Sharma. If I'm as an RCB, I'm RCB. I'm an RCB fan.
I absolutely fucking love it as a CSK fan. But I think it will be. I think it will be exciting if it happens. It'll be a cracker.
Yeah, it will be. And ultimately, like if you're listening to this at home and you're not sure who to support, it comes down to this: do you like Kohli more or Dhoni more? And the answer should be Kohli because he's a G.
Or do you like whiskey or Dhoni?
Yeah, I'm RCB. But now that Punjab are out, I could have said that a while ago. I'm an RCB fan for this season. And then if RCB go out, I'm going to be a KKR fan. That's my fan journey. This tournament. Come on, RCB. That's what I say. Max, on Sunday we've got Sunrisers Hyderabad v Punjab Kings in the morning.
Yeah. Well, they could sneak.
Oh, he
in
hasn't
up to
passed it.
If they,
he didn't go for the pass.
If they, assuming they win against Gujarat, they could be looking at second place, which would be big for them. And also they're playing. Oh, that was it. Cement. Yes, it is cement, isn't it? I bottled it. Sorry, it's really bad for anyone listening on the audio. There was a comment about the fact that cement though is what sponsors CSK.
Make sure you click like.
Yes. Yeah, so Punjab could get absolutely. I mean, they're not going to have their English players by the weekend, and Sunrisers, I think, basically going to have everyone. So it could be a total run fest, and Punjab could get absolutely smashed, and SRH might make second place. So it could be a laugh, but it's not top on my list of games this weekend.
Who's even going to play for Punjab in this match?
I don't know.
Like Punjab at the best
people
of
who
times,
cost 20 lark.
Punjab at the best of times are a pretty bad team in the IPL. Then if you take out, and this isn't a ringing endorsement of Wokes, Livingston, Bairstow, and Curran. That isn't what this is. Or Sikandar Raza, I think, is playing for Zimbabwe at the moment, and Rabada, who's injured. It's not me saying those 6 players are really good, but they're better than the bench riders that are going to come in for them for this final game. It's going to be like, who even plays? So they've got Nathan Ellis. Who's the other overseas player?
Russo? Is he still around?
Russo. I guess so.
Yeah.
It's going to be those two. I mean, Nathan Ellis is a good player.
Is Wokes gone or will Wokes be there?
I've heard Wokes has gone. But I don't know that for sure. Like, that's what I read. Maybe Wokes will get a game. Imagine that bench riding the entire tournament, then comes out for one dead rubber at the end of it. Like, how do you think that's going to go?
Yeah, this could be it, Jack. This could be 300.
Could be. Is it at the Hydrodome?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that could be interesting. Max, last game is Rajasthan v KKR. What's going to happen there?
KKR are going to win. They're going to assert their dominance all over Rajasthan and relegate them to third place.
Okay. Fair enough. Someone has asked us to predict the top 4 in order. Well, we can get I think we can get number 1, KKR. Who's going to get the coveted second spot?
I'm going to go SRH.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go SRH as well. I think it might be a tie on points. Yeah, but I think
it could be.
I think they only need to win one game, I reckon, to finish second. Well, actually, basically, I'm saying that Rajasthan are probably going to lose to KKR. But I don't know, actually. I mean, like the maths probably says Rajasthan, doesn't it?
It depends. It depends whether KKR put a team out or not, basically, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it does. Yeah. Okay, so you've gone SRH. So with Rajasthan in the third, who's going to be the fourth team in?
CSK on 15 points.
I bet it is. I bet it is. If I was going to bet, I would bet on that. Or it's a 5-over game, and I think but then the net run rate thing becomes impossible to overcome because there just aren't enough overs really. You'd have to hit every ball for 6 or something sort of bonkers like that to get the margin of victory required. Cool. All right, Max, that's that podcast done. Remember, we will be back on Sunday talking about all of this, so make sure you click follow, like, subscribe, whatever the button is on the audio or visual platform you're watching or listening on. Click like, leave us a comment, let us know what you think. Let us know your top 4 if you're on YouTube. Let us know your top 4, or if you're on Twitter, let us know what order you think they'll come in. And let's all cross our fingers and hope that it stays dry on Saturday. Goodbye.